Hello, my name is Evelina Galang, and I am Vona faculty. I also serve as Vona board president. It's my honor to welcome all of you to Black Lives Matter, Vona Writers Speak. Nina Simone once said that it is the artist's job to reflect the times. So we've invited our faculty, Vona and Vona alumni to come together to share some of their work. And we've also asked them to share some of the work of literary elders who have been a part of the struggle for social justice and to the end of racism. So that'll be interesting to see how much has changed, how much remains the same. We come together in honor of George Floyd, who suffered this senseless death under police brutality. He was murdered. And he's not the first. And as we can see, he has not been the last. It is still going on. This fight for justice is real. We join you, we mourn with you, and we hope to heal with you. Thank you.
My name is Stacie Evans. I'm a 4-time Vona alum and a member of the board of directors. This piece is called Because There Will Be No Chance to Say It Then. If I die in police custody, I was murdered. I didn't fight, didn't grab for a weapon, didn't mysteriously pass in my sleep, didn't kill myself. I may have said, hey, when the violence started, surprised that someone was brutalizing me. I may have said, hey again, more quietly, when I felt my life leaching out of me, surprised that it was really coming to that. I say hey when something's going wrong. I don't shout it, just say it with honest surprise. It's not the best last word to be remembered for, but it will be mine, I am sure. If I die in police custody, know that whatever story the police tell you is a lie. Know that because you know me. Say, that's not what Stacie would do. Then go out in the street and say my name. If I die in police custody, it is because an officer, probably white, surely male, saw my big blackness and decided my life didn't matter. He maybe didn't see me as human, but as animal, as chaff, as supernatural demon, as worthy only of his violence. Saw my beautiful kinky hair as scruff, my soft full body as too much, my big long-fingered hands as wrong. And he crushed them, crushed me. Then turned and told you I did it to myself, that I was the one full of hate who didn't see my life as worth living. He is lying. You must know that he is lying. And you do know. You knew it after Sandra Bland. You knew it after Ginia McMillan. You know. If I die in police custody, remember how I sound when I say hey, the look of puzzlement that creases my face. That time I was buying fabric on 39th Street and a shelf of bolted wool was about to collapse on me. At 6 a.m. in Ljubljana, as I stood outside a bland Soviet apartment block watching a man walk away with my suitcase. The 3 train platform at Kingston when I asked the conductor a question and he closed the doors and drove off, leaving me behind. The hey is real, always. When I said it to the police officer, did he ignore my tone, the confusion on my face, and hear challenge, resistance? I don't care. Don't forgive him. I did not deserve death. If I die in police custody, know that what I've always said is still true. That I wasn't Trayvon, not Tamir, but Eleanor, as in bumpers. Know that it didn't matter who I was, that my height, my size, the soft, warm brown of my skin were a fatal equation, adding up to one more body, one more hashtag. Say my name. If I die in police custody, don't let Fox News get away with describing me as angry and combative. Force them to see that I was full of love, that even as I cried and called out, unable to process the fact of my dying, I was still holding hope. Still imagining salvation, a Deus Ex Machina jailhouse rescue. If I die in police custody, remember me.
What's good, Vona? My name is Willie Perdomo, and I'll be chipping in a poem from the Crazy Bunch in solidarity with Black Lives Matter, Vona Writers Speak. The poem is called Revival and takes place midway through the Crazy Bunch, which chronicles a weekend in the lives of 5 young Black and Puerto Rican teenagers from East Harlem during the summer in the 1990s. The poem is called Revival. Another Saturday night revival down the block and a pulpit full of born-agains two-step past the chicken slaughterhouse. Full moon and we still couldn't see each other, still couldn't reach that upper air. In the same breath, we discovered that you can't be Jesus' son when you're in front of a gun. Pamphlets and speakers circulated the word, and saving us was never on the court's docket. Old crackling tombstones. Devil, the sister sang, don't get dressed because you ain't invited. Dre spit to the tambourine. I get baptized in the sunrise, get realized in the wise and wise. The Reverend spit too. Cleanse the street off you, son. Stop your life lie. Come and brave this damnation. Do or die, as you say. Who was it on lookout that yelled from the rooftop, Dre, who you trying to be, bro? How to describe that sound when the birds flutter like a deck of cards being shuffled? Where to find your uplift and hallelujah, your hosanna and hero, campana and chorus? Dre plopped to his knees and cried, it wasn't me, it wasn't me, it wasn't me. A crown of circus tents, two-headed spotlights, steady go tell it on a mountain, and still no glory for the crew. Surround systems and cement trucks parked by no parking. Trust and believe there was enough mix to bury all of us. Peace.
Hey, I'm Dorabji, reading How It Feels to Be Colored Me by Zora Neale Hurston. This was written in 1928. I have no separate feeling about being an American citizen and colored. I am merely a fragment of the great soul that surges within the boundaries. My country, right or wrong. Sometimes I feel discriminated against, but it does not make me angry. It merely astonishes me. How can any deny themselves the pleasure of my company? It's beyond me.
Hi, my name is Tananarive. I am Vona faculty in speculative fiction, and I'd like to read an essay I wrote for Vanity Fair in the wake of Black Lives Matter demonstrations around the country and really around the world following the deaths of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and so many others over the years who have broken our hearts. My story starts when I was 14 years old in an essay I called, Can We Live? The headline, the subhead is The Daughter of Civil Rights Activists on the Question That's Haunted Her for Decades. In the blizzard of stories across my social media feed after Minneapolis police killed George Floyd, one stopped me cold. A 12-year-old boy, Keydron Bryant, went viral singing a song he wrote about police brutality called I Just Want to Live. The song and his voice are lovely, but I was heartbroken. I was only a little older than Bryant and sitting in my junior high school cafeteria when I wrote a poem inspired by police brutality called I Want to Live. I was 14, and neighborhoods in my home city of Miami were burning. The memory returns, raw and visceral, as I watch footage from the uprisings in Minneapolis and nationwide protesting Floyd's killing. It returned too during the Louisville protests after police shot and killed EMT Breonna Taylor in her own home. It returned in 2014 when I saw footage of tear gas flying in Ferguson after police killed 18-year-old Mike Brown, as well as in 1991 in the aftermath of the Rodney King police beating in Los Angeles. Every city's new scream of pain sweeps my mind back to May 17th, 1980, the day my childhood ended. On that day, the police officers charged with killing Arthur McDuffie were acquitted. McDuffie was a 33-year-old Black motorcyclist, an insurance salesman, and former Marine MP who had led police on a high-speed chase before he coasted to a stop at the freeway exchange. As many as 12 officers swarmed him, full of rage. While McDuffie was handcuffed, they beat him so badly with heavy flashlights that the coroner said his skull looked like, quote, a cracked egg. The officers then damaged his motorcycle and crafted a lie, saying he had been injured in a crash. McDuffie died days later. Arthur McDuffie might have died under the cloud of the police officer's lie, if not for Miami Herald reporter Edna Buchanan, who got a tip and investigated his death, exposing the conspiracy to hide his murder. After the expose, several officers were tried for manslaughter, which, even as a child, didn't seem like a powerful enough charge for me. Even so, an all-white jury in Tampa acquitted them. I felt stunned and shattered as I watched the news crawl silently across my television screen on a sleepy Saturday afternoon. He didn't matter to them, I thought. Our lives don't matter. It was almost too big for my mind to accept. My parents were civil rights activists, so I knew how bad things had been back in the 1960s from their stories of fire hoses and tear gas and jail cells and beatings. But 1980 was the first time I understood how Jim Crow was still hiding inside the criminal justice system. I was pledging allegiance to the same flag as my white classmates at school, but there was no such thing as, quote, liberty and justice for all. Although the Black Lives Matter movement would not be born until more than 30 years later, Arthur McDuffie was my first Black Lives Matter moment. My late mother, Patricia Stevens Dew, was part of the first jail-in the 1960s student sit-in movement. She and her sister, my aunt Priscilla Stevens Krause, and 3 other Florida A&M University students spent 49 days in jail rather than paying their fines after they were arrested for ordering food at a segregated Woolworth's lunch counter. My father, John Dew, 85 now and still a self-titled, quote, freedom lawyer, did dangerous field work in Mississippi and helped pioneer the tactic of removing Southern civil rights cases from state to federal court. My 2 sisters and I were practically homeschooled on Black history. Both of my parents have been inducted into Florida Civil Rights Hall of Fame. The night of the McDuffie verdict in 1980, my mother and 2 younger sisters attended a protest at the County Justice Building. But I'd spent much of my childhood at local protests with my parents, and even at 14, I was already weary. What good would holding another sign do against a problem so entrenched? Instead, I chose to go see a silly comedy with a friend trying to escape. By the time my friend and I got back from the movie, images of burning cars and a smoke-choked sky were on the evening news. The protests had turned violent. For long minutes, I did not know if my family had been hurt. Thankfully, my mom had been able to take my sisters to safety with the help of community leaders. My father worked the streets as a member of the Community Relations Board to try to instill calm. Over the next 3 days, smoke hung over the city as Miami burned. I felt sick, sleepwalking at school while my hometown was in flames. My junior high school played music over the cafeteria loudspeaker to try to quell any tensions at my tri-ethnic school, but the music wasn't helping me breathe. So I began writing my poem instead. I want to live. I want to live in a society where nobody remembers what nigger used to mean. With line after line, I described the utopian society I wished I lived in. No hate, no discrimination. The poem ended, maybe that sounds like heaven, but if I lived there right now, I'd call this society hell. You know why? Maybe it is. When I was finished, I had tears in my eyes, but the despair in my chest felt soothed. I showed the poem to my mother, and she told me how lucky I was to have writing as an outlet for my emotions. The people setting those fires feel hopeless, she said. I'd wanted to be a writer since I was 4, but that was the first time I understood that writing might save my life. Now, a new generation is discovering just how devalued their lives are in US society, risking a pandemic and possible police violence to protest in the name of a better society. In their cities, they are facing their own baptisms by fire. But it comes with a cost. After my mother was tear gassed at a peaceful march in Tallahassee in 1960, she wore dark glasses even indoors for the rest of her life, complaining about lingering sensitivity to light. I went to jail so you wouldn't have to, she once told me. If only it were that simple. If only one generation's sacrifices could have fixed it all. It's no wonder that my mother found solace in horror movies, where the real-life horrors she feared most could be confronted or even vanquished in the form of monsters and demons. She passed that love on to me, and my writing shifted from utopias to horror scenarios, where I could write characters strong enough to face seemingly insurmountable odds. Just like the child writer I was in 1980, everything I write is designed to make me stronger, to give me hope. Years after the death of Arthur McDuffie, when the police officers who had beaten Rodney King for the world to see on video were acquitted in Los Angeles, and Los Angeles erupted in protest, I had a dream that felt real enough to touch. I was present during McDuffie's beating at that freeway exchange as he lay prone on the asphalt, absorbing blow after blow in horrifying slow motion. I tried to scream out, but my voice was gone. I could only witness, helpless. I woke up sobbing with the anguish I had not allowed myself to experience while I was awake. Suddenly, I was a 14-year-old girl again. Some nightmares never go away.
When Great Trees Fall by Maya Angelou. When great trees fall, rocks on distant hills shudder, lions hunker down in tall grasses, and even elephants slumber after safety. When great trees fall, in forests, small things will quarrel into silence, the senses eroded beyond fear. When great souls die, the air around us becomes light, rare, sterile. We breathe briefly, our eyes briefly see with a hurtful clarity. Our memory, subtly sharpened, examines, gnaws on kind words unsaid, promised walks never taken. Great souls die, and our reality, bound to them, takes leave of us. Our souls, dependent upon their nurture, now shrink, wisen. Our minds, formed and informed by their radiance, fall away. We are not so much maddened as reduced to the unutterable ignorance of dark, cold caves. And when great souls die, after a period peace blooms, slowly and always irregularly. Spaces fill with a kind of soothing electric vibration. Our senses restored, never to be the same, whisper to us, they existed, and we can be and be better, for they existed.
My name is Elmaz Abinader, and I was honored to be asked by Vona to join them in the statement of solidarity with Black Lives Matter. It comes from the core of our beliefs that have created Vona. Our words matter, Black Lives Matter. I called upon one of my poetry mothers to join me in this support. Lucille Clifton wrote a poem called Jasper, Texas, 1998, in response to the murder of James Byrd, who was attached to the back of a pickup truck and dragged through the town of Jasper, Texas. Here's her poem, Jasper, Texas, 1998. I am a man's head hunched in the road. I was chosen to speak by the members of my body. The arm, as it pulled away, pointed toward me. The hand opened once and was gone. Why? And why? And why should I call white man brother? Who is human in this place? The thing that is dragged or the dragger? What does my daughter say? The sun is a blister overhead. If I were alive, I could not bear it. The townsfolk sing, we shall overcome, while hope bleeds slowly from my mouth into the dirt that covers us all. I am done with this dust. I am done. His death be on him like a skin, and his skin be his heart's revenge. Thank you, Lucille Clifton. Thank you, Vona. Black Lives Matter.
Hello, Vona fam. I am Maurice Ruffin, and I'm going to read a piece by a sister named Kathleen Collins. She was a filmmaker as well as an author. and she passed in 1988, but her short story collection, Whatever Happened to Interracial Love, was published in 2016, and it included the story I'm going to read right now. It's a piece of flash fiction called Exteriors, and it relates to her divorce. Okay, it's a 6th-floor walk-up, 3 rooms in the front, bathroom in the kitchen, roaches on the walls, a cubby hole of a john with a stained glass window. The light, they've got light up the butt. It's the tallest building on the block, facing nothing but rooftops and sun. Okay, let's light it for night. I want a spot on that big double bed that takes up most of the room, and a little one on the burlap night table. Okay, now light that work table with all those notebooks and papers and stuff. Good. And put a spot on those pillows made up to look like a couch. Good. Now let's have a nice soft gel on the young man composing his poems or reading at his work table. And add another soft one for the young woman standing by the stove killing roaches. Okay, now backlight the 2 of them asleep in the big double bed with that blue and white comforter over them. Nice touch. Okay, now while they're asleep, put a spot on the young woman smiling in that photograph, taken on the roof of the building, and on the young man smoking a pipe in that photograph, taken in the black rocking chair. And be sure to light the 2 of them hugging each other in that photograph, taken in the park around the corner. Good. Now backlight the young woman as she lifts that enamel counter covering the bathtub, and put a little light on him undressing her, and a nice soft arc on the 2 of them nude in the doorway. Nice touch. Now dim the light. He's picking at her and teasing her. No, take it way down. She looks too anxious and sad. Keep it down. He looks too restless and angry. Down some more. She's just trying to please him. It can stay down. She's just waiting at the window. No, on second thought, kill it. There's too much silence and pain. Now fog it slightly when he comes back in the evening, and keep it dim while they sit on the bed. Now how about a nice blue gel when he tells her it's over? Good. Now go for a little fog while she tries not to cry. Good. Now take it up on him a little while he watches her coldly, and then up on her when she asks him to stay. Nice. Now down a bit while it settles between them, and keep it down while he watches her, just watches her, then fade him to black and leave her in the shadow while she looks for the feelings that lit up the room. One love, y'all.
I'm Faith Adiele, and this is from a new piece that I wrote for a COVID anthology. I wrote it 8 weeks into shelter in place, so it was before the current protests. And it's called The New Old Vocabulary. Week 7, At Risk. It becomes clear that those who are dying are black and brown. Your people have always been both essential and expendable, both craft workers, food servers, delivery people, farm workers, garbage picker-uppers, and specialists, nurses, home health care providers, lab techs, #Nigerian doctors. The Bay Area's highest rates of infection and death are in your neighborhood of poor blacks and Latinos. The black female mayor of white San Francisco takes action. The white female mayor of black Oakland hides out. Neighbors on next door accuse you of making everything about race. Yes, you respond. Exactly. But you're privileged. Privileged to have a job that allows you to work 12 hours a day online. Privileged to live in the Bay with its sunny weather and food delivery and farmers markets and governor who knows how to lead and read. And though armed, unmasked Californians draped in camo patrol the countryside whining about oppression, at least you're not in a state full of them, the state of white privilege. In Chicago alone, blacks account for 72% of virus-related fatalities. Those numbers take your breath away. They really do, says Mayor Lightfoot. 6 hours away in Minneapolis, a policeman will kneel on George Floyd's neck, and he will beg, "I can't breathe."
Chasing Autumn, Chapter 1. I saw you before, baby. It's a deja vu, honey. Don't you know you remind me? Mary J. Blige, December 93. From the door, the whole place had the fragrance of a feast. The munchies had kicked in, and I wanted to snatch a hunk of bread from every table we passed. The back section was dotted with people grouped in conversation under a large World AIDS Day banner. Behind them, the luncheon opened into a busy thoroughfare of bodies in motion, displays, and lightly stringed instrumentals. Pastor Tony, over here. What a blessing to see you. I felt embarrassed for him as he tried to squeeze his ministry belly through the small spaces in between tables. He held his hand high for location and balance. He was a classic ex-fiend turned pastor. One of those cats that diddy-bopped in church clothes and talked slick with a big-ass Bible in his hand. "Reuben Mitchell, is that you, little brother?" my father replied. Reverend Mitchell arrived at our table, very out of breath, yet eager to introduce the couple behind him. "Pastor Tony, it's so good to see you again." As he hugged my dad, his sleeves went up to his elbows and made his sports coat beg for mercy. "You know, Pastor Tony, I have a few flocks of my own now, small little works in strategic locations throughout the Bronx. It does keep us away from home and the children, but we know the Lord has given us a mighty vision. Community centers, schools, family outreach, the whole bag of works." My dad placed his hand on Reverend Mitchell's shoulder. "Okay, little brother, slow down. We just got to the table. Sorry to just blurt it all out, Pastor Tony, but we're just bubbling with excitement over the opportunities for expansion. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. In my haste to cast vision, I forgot to introduce you to Pastor Tito Flores and his wife, Reverend Rose." Reverend Mitchell moved between them enthusiastically. "And this right here, Pastor Tony Baxter, and his wife is Reverend Jean." He continued to talk, and they all exchanged handshakes and holy embraces. "And this is the Baxter's oldest son, Dante. I see you're back from God's mountain, Dante. I'm a proud graduate myself. I was a little before your time up there, and the Floreses are here with their oldest daughter, Autumn. I wanted to check him because he put my business out there, but instead her name just fell out of my mouth. Autumn." Reverend Mitchell picked up on my vibe quick and followed up. Yeah, do you know her, Dante?" I smiled at her parents and spoke directly to them. "No, I don't think so. No, I would remember such a pretty name." Her mother smiled back. "Well, that is a very nice thing to say, Dante. You make a very good first impression." "Thank you, Mrs. Flores." I smiled and nodded my head towards my mother. "Ah, here she is. Here's Autumn now." She looped her arm around Autumn's arm. "Autumn, honey, I would like you to meet Dante Baxter." She was even more beautiful than I remembered. Her brown curls fell to her shoulders. She winked and flashed her smile, and I lost my breath. So when I reintroduced myself, my voice cracked a little. "Hi, excuse me, I'm Dante." "Autumn is a very beautiful name, by the way." She chuckled and extended her hand with a curtsy. "Hello, Dante, I'm Autumn, and Dante is an equally cool name." My mother smiled, and Autumn's mother smiled back. Autumn's mother motioned for us to all be seated.
Hi, I'm Samiya Bashir, and I'm really glad to be reaching out to you in the midst of this time of isolation. From the road where I am to whatever road you're on. I'd like to share a poem with you today. It's called Manistee Light. Brother, I don't either understand this skip-scrapple world. These slick bubble cars zip feverish down rushes of not corn, of not beets, of not cabbage, and the land, and the land. You should know, man. Nothing grows down here anymore except walloped wishes and their gouged out oil cans. Where not blood roof spans us, guard towers landmine the sand. They twist us. They tornado us. No. Do spring breezes bring the scent of smelt? Remember? Even on strike, our mother gathered smelt by their fingery bagfuls and fried them whole. I wish I knew how she did it. It was almost enough.
Hola, Vona familia. My name is Wendy Angulo, and I'm a 2016 Vona alum and the 2019 Interim Program Director of Vona. Today, I join members of the faculty and other alums in support of the Black Lives Matter. I walk in the history of my people by Christos. There are women locked in my joints for refusing to speak to the police. My red blood full of those arrested, in flight, shot. My tendons stretch brittle with anger. Do not look like white roots of peace. In my marrow are hungry faces who live on a land the whites don't want. In my marrow, women who walk 5 miles every day for water. In my marrow, the swollen faces of my people who are not allowed to hunt, to move, to be. In the scars on my knee, you can see children turn from their families, bludgeoned into government schools. You can see through the pins in my bones that we are prisoners of a long war. My knee is so badly wounded, no one will look at it. The pus of the past oozes from every pore. The infection has gone on for at least 300 years. My sacred beliefs have been made pencils, names of cities, gas stations. My knee is wounded so badly that I limp constantly. Anger is my crutch. I hold myself upright with it. My knee is wounded. See how I am still walking.
Noir, une lumière. There's a sorceress in our night. A sky that only moves memory to make place for the mangoes of last night. There's an old man who says, libère-moi, and mean, take everything but my blackness. Only in the dark do doves find reason. Only in the dark do doves have reason to believe that vengeance is light hanging on fallen tree. After each fall we ask, where's the island? The sugarcane that disappeared in our hunger, the water that emptied our thirst, the song that robbed our nightmare. They mock us. They tell us to whisper in their ears. They will obey, but curses beat the air wild. The air is faint, and they tell us, stop plotting fire. You're in the wrong land, even if the roosters recognize you. They hated our black. What they didn't understand is that it illuminates their world.
My name is Christian Howard, and I'm going to be reading an excerpt from The System of Dante's Hell by Amiri Baraka. Seducers. The cold light, even inside. Say autumn, say railroad, say leaves, go back. After crossing the street, the tracks, dark stones, your own space, wherever. It was afternoon when she died. Everyone lie. For Lillian, who never understood the seasons, my shadow against the marquise, the dark, and it clutched her. Lillian, so thin with my talk, gifts against the cold, her space impossible to say, to define, that distance across the streets, her park, her friends. The sun had slept on grass in the south. The sun had marked its time. Lillian, say love, say slept, say place your fingers here. There were, of course, parties. She came. I stayed in the metal halls, rifling the mailboxes, grinning, being popular, dancing alone or with those heavy-fleshed men I forgot to tell most people about. She would look out the window and identify us, even in the shadows, even from the roof, those myths, the beautiful naked speech. Go away and try to come back. Try to return here, or wherever is softest, most beautiful. Go away, panderer, liar, but come back to it. Those high wire fences, the brown naked bodies, they turned or hurt or walked or pronounced my name. Does the word foots mean anything to you? She would say. Before she got skinny and died. Before that colored girl wept for her. Her false screams among the buffets, the dingy Saturdays of her lovers. What is left if you return? You deserve to find dead slums, streets, yellow houses near the tracks, someone's mother still dying with an old lamp hillside place. They would know what to say, even now, if they weren't afraid of myself, of what I made myself. The blue and orange hills, red buildings, he would know, even in the hall, bent over money on the floor, blues singer, thin Jimmy with tugged-up pegs, headlight. Does that word mean anything to you? Separate persons. Kenny got old, my sister, the street, the garbage, or the black walls and illiterate letters, to continue from that. Don't look, don't go back there. You are myself's river, blue speech. Kenny got old. I tell you, don't go back. Look out the window. The television whines on their Christmas. They thought I was rich. I thought the hall was dark. The light fixture should have been fancier. I was not good to look at. Smart, though. They thought I was smart, too. They expected something like this. These shadows. Bubbles. Does that mean anything? Artificial or not, Saturday or not, my birthday is Easter in church if I can get dressed up. Don't say it. That my suit will not be new this year. It'll be clean, though. It'll be gray covert cloth. It'll be pink and gray. It'll be short-brimmed. It'll be a reservoir, a view of ourselves, not as little boys, men, intelligences, super heterodyne, expensive radios, zippers, blue men like my father, like those associations. The playground is old. Kenny is old. Headlight is old. I am not. I come back to see them. I am in a black room with my new shoes. The two women stare at me and the shoes. I am drunker than their world. They do not even hate me. They are amused. I am drunker than their seasons.
You have to act as if it were possible to radically transform the world. And you have to do it all the time. Angela Davis.
So I wanted to share something with you from a literary elder from my community, the Filipino American community. It is by Carlos Bulosan, and it's an excerpt from America is in the Heart, which was first published in 1946. America is a warning to those who try to falsify the ideals of free men. America is also the nameless foreigner, the homeless refugee, the hungry boy begging for a job, and the black body dangling on a tree. America is the illiterate immigrant who is ashamed that the world of books and intellectual opportunities is closed to him. We are all that nameless foreigner, that homeless refugee, that hungry boy, that illiterate immigrant, that lynched black body. All of us, from the first Adams to the last Filipino, native-born or alien, educated or illiterate, we are America. That old world is dying, but the new world is being born. It generates inspiration from the chaos that bears upon us all, the false grandeur and security, the unfulfilled promises and illusory power. The number of the dead and those about to die will charge the forces of our courage and determination. This old world will die, so that the new world will will be born with less sacrifice and agony on the living.
And blue. All our ironies and stretch marks and knowing nods and creations and trifling ways and imagination and sight beyond sight and dignity in the face of murder and lies that sound truthful and truth that sound lied up and porches and neck grease and home training and awkwardness and cool and styles up on styles up on styles is what we have. And that thing that when it's turned on rarely gets turned off unless we hear an 808 from 216s and sonic booms and beady beautiful beads and sonic booms and hot combs on gas stoves and sonic booms and genius and genius and genius and our sound and our laughters and our sounds and our laughter and our sounds and our laughters and our laughter and our laughter and our laughter and our sounds and how I got you when I'm scared and you scared, but you got me and we got us and we still scared. And I'm thankful we are us and so sad they have yet to understand who they are to themselves and who they have been and that we know both and we don't know shit, but we know we black. And we know we have in common with the birds. And if I couldn't be black, I'd be a bird. A black raggedy ass bird. And we'd be so fly, soaring, talking black bird shit, dropping black bird shit. And we'd be dipping and diving and saying, watch this, in the face of terror and that good love, and that good love, and that good love. And we know that good love is black, can be blacker, even if it look white. And red, and yellow, and gray, and pink, and green, and blue, and blue, and blue is so black, and blue is so black, and blue is so black, and blue.
My name is David Mura. I've been on the Vona faculty since 2003, and I'm a Vona board member. I live just a couple miles from the events in Minneapolis, and my adult children work with young people from the area. One of my son's students, a brave African-American 17-year-old, Darnella Frazier, recorded the central video of George Floyd's murder. Here is what I wrote this week to my Vona class. I want to acknowledge that all of us are feeling a welter of emotions following the murder of George Floyd by 4 Minneapolis police officers and the ensuing demonstrations all over our country, all over the world. Anger, outrage, sadness, grief, hope, love, exhaustion. It's difficult to sort through our reactions, but we are determined that these injustices must end, that police brutality against black and brown bodies must end, that the vast and complicated and morally corrupt system of racism in America must end. Vona was founded to be a place where writers of color could learn among and be taught by writers of color. It was founded with the belief that artistic excellence and social justice, art and activism can be aligned and practiced together. It was founded with the belief that our stories need to be told, our lives need to be recorded, our poems need to be heard. And Who We Be, the Colorization of America, the cultural critic Jeff Chang examines the issues of race over the last 50 years, the post-civil rights era, within the context of cultural change. Chang writes, "Here is where artists and those who work and play in culture enter. They help people to see what cannot yet be seen, hear the unheard, tell the untold. They make change feel not just possible, but inevitable. Every moment of major social change requires a collective leap of imagination. Change presents itself not only in spontaneous and organized expressions of unrest and risk, but in explosions of mass creativity. So, those interested in transforming society might assert, cultural change always precedes political change. Put another way, political change is the last manifestation of cultural shifts that have already occurred. We are, I believe, in the midst of a huge and unprecedented political and cultural change. I haven't seen anything like it in my lifetime. Vona has been part of this change. You are part of this change. Your voices are part of this change. Stay safe. Write your truth. Keep fighting.